Opposed? That's carried. Either Mr. Nader-Rosny or Mr. Elliott. Mr. Nader-Rosny, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So we've provided a ranked summary for you with the cumulative tax increase down the farthest right corner, and the highest ranked item is at the very top of the list, and it proceeds down. So if you look at the 3.0, you'd be dropping the last three. If you went to 3.1, you'd be dropping the last two. And you'd be, if you funded them all, you'd be doing 3.4. So again, at this point, it's a question of where you want to draw the line and whether there's any modifications you want to make, changes. I mean, this is, again, as a discussion tool, not necessarily the final point.
Councillor Humphreys.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. At this point, I'd like to throw out a 3.0 cutoff.
Councillor Thompson seconding that. Comments or discussion around that, please? Which would drop off the last three items, which is animal control, additional training, and the evening facilities. Councillor Humphreys, back to you for discussion to start.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First of all, I knew this process was going to be good just in terms of how it was introduced when I spoke to CAO directly. And what this does for me, it absolutely allows some of the priorities that I have personally, and it looks like others as well. And, you know, I mean, we'd love all, but we actually have some of the critical pieces that we have missed over the past few years for me personally is the museum strategic focus moving forward. We're going to be able to have the support that we need there to really bring our museum to life in the way it was presented to us over a year ago. So really, I'm just, again, looking at this, I think we really do, it's really allowed us great positioning for what we need to have a successful year moving forward and keeping the tax rate, to Councillor Kim's point even earlier, down even a point lower than what we wanted.
Councillor Tom.
Thanks. I just wanted to, I mean, again, I'm happy with 3.0 and certainly happy with the list as it shakes out. I just wanted to give a bit of, I guess, clarification on my position on some of my ratings. I guess this will be part of the public record, so I want to just make sure people know why. The multicultural events scored very high, and certainly it's not something I don't support. I scored it low because I had conversations earlier. You know, you're making decisions at budget and you're looking at weighing certain things, and I thought that we do fund the Cultural Center quite substantially. They provide a lot of multicultural programming. There was talk of perhaps including multicultural programming at the Canada Day celebration, and you know, looking at some of the other priorities I had at budget, including the museum curators and other things. I looked at that as ranking a bit lower, but certainly not something I'm opposing, and so I just want to make sure that, you know, I'm supportive of the event moving forward. Just wanted to maybe clarify why I ranked it so low, and that is I thought maybe we could deliver it in a different way. Other than that, I'm very happy with the list as it is and the 3.0 mark.
We've got, excuse me, Councillor Thompson, Councillor Marcus.
Thank you, Mayor. And I appreciate the new process. I think it is interesting, and I look forward to us kind of refining it. I guess I seconded the 3.0 cutoff based on the, I guess the average total score of 5.11. But I did notice afterwards that for the animal control service level increase, 5 members of council actually scored it greater than 5, and so maybe we should vote on that particular one, see whether or not we want to put it back in or not.
Okay, right now they're.
I know.
Excuse
so
me. Right
I just noticed, even though the combined score or average was 4.33, it is interesting to note that 5 members of council scored it above 5, and 4 didn't. So,
Councillor Thompson, I will come back to you for an amendment. We do have a motion on the floor before we get to Councillor Marcus.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just was wondering if we can just make that correction, because I just put a line through, and if this is going to be public, I mean, I was just expecting to put a line through, and it shows 0 for both sports, and they were actually 10s for me, but I drew a line through it because I thought we were just moving it from one spot to another, so I thought I wasn't scoring it at all. So I just wondering if we can just make that correction so it could reflect my actual scoring
No,
for
that's
those.
going down in history.
Well, I'm not changing it, I'm just,
We can, it's not going to make any difference in terms.
no, I know it's not gonna make any difference, I'm just, if it is gonna be on the public, that's not, my intentions wasn't zero.
Councillor Kim?
Well, I think similar to Councillor Tom and Maracus, I just want to say for the public record, if it's going to show this, because I put a lot of zeros, given that I included the sports organizations as part of this ranking and their budget, and so I knew that we weren't going to have enough for everything, and so that's why I gave a lot of the organizations zeros. So I don't want people to think that I don't support those organizations or that position or activity. So I just want to put that out there that I just included the sport Aurora, which took up 150,000. And so I just made the decision to might as well just put it 0 because there's no point giving it a 4.
I don't think anything should be taken of what your specific vote is. That's just how you know, it would be 0 or 1, it'd be binary, right? If we sat here and voted on each one, you'd be putting your hand up or not. So this is, shades of gray on a binary system. That could be a new book. Shades of gray on a binary system. That'd be 2 shades of gray, right? Sorry.
2 shades of gray.
Councillor Abel, Councillor Gartner.
Mr. Mayor, if I could just have clarification on the RIPFest, does that mean we are going to charge a wristband?
No.
We're going to absorb it as a town?
That's correct.
Oh, because I thought we were going to charge a wristband, so I was not in favor of that. So I put it low, so I'd like mine as a 14, please.
14, double.
I meant it as a 10, maybe.
Councillor Thompson, I'll come back to you. I'm sorry, Councillor Gartner, did you have your hand up? Well, if you, I'm sorry? Well, I think Councillor Thompson wanted to put an amendment on the floor. Well, yeah, you would amend that.
Okay.
I'm going to speak to a couple things. One is the Rib Fest, and I've spent a lot of time at the Rib Fest speaking to people and trying to figure out where they've come from, and a lot of them, I'm going to put a number on it. I'm going to say at least 40%. I don't know if the newspaper has any idea. A huge number of people do not live in Aurora and come from away. And I understand that we want to do that for our economic development, et cetera. But I don't believe that people come to RibFest and go anywhere else other than the RibFest grounds because they have food, they have drink, and they have entertainment. So that means we are supporting a lot of people who come from out of town. Means our taxpayers are supporting a lot of people who come from out of town. And I grant that it's a very difficult thing to try and figure out how to charge admission, but I'm really not in favor of our taxpayers supporting people who are coming from out of town to see particular groups that they've loved over the years. That's fine, let them come. But to come for free, it does not sit well with me. The other thing is the museum. I thank Shauna very much for her work. She works very hard. I also know that there are some people in town who seem to be very interested in volunteering to help her out. And also, for the time being, the Sports Hall of Fame is going to, looks like they're going to keep their consultant curator. I think we really need to have a substantive plan going forward as to how we want to see the museum, where we want to see the museum, what exactly is the value of our collection, how we want to display it. Do we want to go more online? Do we want to go into the schools? I mean, there was a project about going into the schools. I think this takes a much bigger discussion, and so at this point, I'm not willing to have an extra staff in place there. other than the part-time student.
I've lost track of, Counselor Tom?
I mean, I just wanted to comment just about RibFest since it was brought up, and I don't disagree with what Councillor Gardner has said. I mean, the challenge is, and if you read it in the kind of the option sheet, and we all looked at this report, I think, when it came to council, is that it's hard to administer wristbands mid-a-day. Like, everyone's already in the park, and so they had issues going up to people and saying, hey, to stay here, you have to buy a wristband, and people are kind of like, well, what? And so it's confusing. So for me, I think, like, I go to the King City Beer Fest. I'm sure there's lots of other events, but this is one example. They charge tickets. Like, there is no free entry, and there's lots of food there and stuff. So I think if you're going to charge for it, you really have to make it a fully charged event. Or if it's going to be free, it has to be a fully, not free, but fully funded event. Because I think it's hard to go in like at 8 p.m. and, like the report says, and go through and say, do you have a wristband? Oh, you know what I mean? Like, and do you have cash, no cash, ATM? You know what I mean? I think it's just difficult that way. So for me, I think if you either make a decision to make it a fully ticketed event or a fully non-ticketed event. And so for me, I think we've always run it non-ticketed, and I think that I'm comfortable with that moving forward. That's just my comment.
I'm sorry, so I have. Apologies. Counselor Abel, I believe, second time? And Counselor Humphries?
Yeah, I was, my first time I was a bit tongue-in-cheek, but I'll make my valuable comments now. The RibFest, I know a lot of businesses do not appreciate the RibFest. It's not enhancing their businesses. They would prefer to be involved in the RibFest. And there is a lot of people from out of town, and I also feel that we should allow youths to be accompanied by their parents to come in. I mean, it was just shame watching Councillor Humphries stand outside in the playground with her grandson. And, you know, the reason we have this is because of hooliganism. And that is a story that is so old. And a lot of parents come with their kids, and there's no reason not to let them in. I think we really have to visit that again. And again, the RibFest only benefits, I appreciate the Rotary because it is a great fundraiser for them, and they only give back. However, all the money goes out with those ribbers, and they leave nothing back. And I've heard stories, I don't know what the figures are, but $250,000 goes in their pockets when they leave, and they don't leave anything for our community. So they're making a mint. Our businesses are suffering. Our families can't go there because we're not allowing the maturity of our parents to bring in their children. So if it's not for our community, why are we investing the money in it? I've had a lot of people say, given the money, they could put on a music festival just as good or better with the community partners. So I don't know where we're going to go with that. I know in some communities they are doing their own RibFest. I think Newmarket does it, but it's a disaster where they have it. But you know, my feeling is if you're going to do something, it has to have an economic and a social impact. And if you can't bring your kids to watch a band and our businesses are suffering, that's 2 strikes already as we go. And the fact that we're going to pay taxpayers money on it, I'm really, I mean, I love the music, I love the event. I don't eat the ribs because they're side ribs, but it's a great event. It's a lot of fun. I go there all the time, I must say. And I got to appreciate that last year we had a couple of local bands, which it was great to see. We had Road Heavy and Patty McLaughlin was back. So I like seeing our youth. I would like to see some local talent get an opportunity as well.
Any other? Councillor Gartner, second time?
Just very quickly, could we leave
Oh,
it
I'm
with,
sorry, I had Councillor Humphries, and I'll come back to you. Councillor Gartner.
could we leave it with staff to look at? I mean, we get $15,500. I don't know how many ribbers there are. I think there's 5 or 6. Is that the
5.
going rate? And could we charge more? And the other thing is, could staff look at, we're providing food for the bands. I'm not sure why we're doing that. It's a what?
It's just part of the
I
contract.
don't know, I don't think we need to spend $561 on food for the bands. Anyway, if
You-
staff could just look at that,
Mr. Downey, if you could take that under advisement?
unless there, do you have an answer? Through you, Mr. Mayor?
To you, Mr. Mayor, we negotiate riders on every band, so it's all part of the negotiations.
As I recall, the council critters had a rider for green Smarties, but Councillor Humphreys.
What? I mean,
You guys need to do a rooftop gig.
Councillor Humphreys.
thank you, Mr. Mayor. I don't know what I was saying. Yeah, RibFest, yeah, lots of things, probably some new ideas and things to address some of the challenges, and I'm sure it'll just get bigger and better. You know, that staff's heard a couple of comments that we can get better. And yeah, it's a bit of a challenge for sure, because the residents, you know, that we don't want to charge our residents, but you know, outside team people seem to benefit as well. So maybe there's some kind of idea that can be come up with where it doesn't disrupt people that are already in the event. Not an easy challenge, but right now looks like it's covered, and hopefully we'll be able to move forward. Just in terms of the museum and the strategic vision for the museum, and I see Shauna in our audience, but Shauna did present when she first started a pretty incredible vision for our museum, and I think you're going to love the refresher, which I hope can come forward. Probably not tonight. Probably doesn't expect this to happen, but in the future, near future, once all is moving forward, what the vision is for our museum, and articulate what online our articling means, which is really important if you want your museum to be world renowned, and people that like artifacts, that can search them and go, I'm going to Aurora and I'm going to look at this if I can in person. But anyway, I'm really excited about the vision. It's something, you know, I think I've wanted to see since way before I was even on council. I know a lot of people are going to be really thrilled that the support that we're going to be getting now to get that museum to where we want it to be is so exciting. I'm really thankful and grateful tonight to council, because I know sometimes we all have what we want for our residents and what we think is important, but this one is personally really, I'm really grateful for this, and I can't wait to see it come to fruition. I know it's going to happen fast. I mean, it's a lot of work. Oh, I don't know, Mr. Mayor, is it okay if Shauna says a couple of words
Not at
about it?
this point.
Not right now? Okay. Anyways, I just would have, it's a good thing to share. Yeah.
Councillor Marcus.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to make like an overall comment. I think that this is the second year in a row now that we've basically given staff a number. They've come back at that number, and we're finishing our budget at the beginning of December again. And I think it just speaks volumes about the amount of work that staff, council does in bringing this forward. The Finance Committee, I think they do an excellent job. Councillor Thompson, you, Mr. Mayor, and Councillor Kim, all the work that you guys do, and all the work that staff does. Mr. Elliott and his team, and the rest of the executive leadership team. I think everyone does an excellent job in bringing this budget forward, and I think we're providing the residents a great amount of value, and the work that we've done in getting it to that number that we've asked for. I think everyone's done a tremendous job, and I just want to thank everyone for all their hard work.
So based on that, can we give Mr. Nato Rosny 2 days off and have him starting the budget on the 3rd?
No, he's still got to work on the training and development aspects, so.
Okay. I tried.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
It's all right. I just, quick comment on Ribfest, and certainly there are people from out of town that come to Aurora, there's no question, but there's people from out of town that come to concerts in the park and to the Easter egg hunt and to everything. It's because we got great events. And I'm sensitive to local businesses. And maybe there's a way that Mr. Downey can look at it. But with respect to the age of majority, it starts at 8 o'clock, Mr. Downey? And so I had an incidental discussion with the York Region Police last year when they were there, and so Certainly, they would, they have some views, and I think it would be absolutely appropriate to bring that back and have a discussion around that. I also know that the members of the Rotary Club have views on that as well. So I think that we would want that input. And I think we've always been fairly circumspect that if someone is in there with their family, that we don't go around throwing them out. So, unless it's Councillor Humphreys with her grandson, sorry. Council, rather than have Councillor Thompson put an amendment on to add the animal control, is that correct, Councillor Thompson? Is perhaps then a friendly amendment with Councillor Humphrey and Councillor Thompson to make that number 3.1, which would include the animal control? Well, the clerk and I were talking about whether or not that was a contrary amendment. That's all. Councillor Thompson, you okay with that? Just friendly? And so, does anybody have any concerns in terms of doing that? Okay, I'll go to Councillor Thompson and come back. Councillor Perry?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I don't have any concerns per se. I didn't score that one high myself, but I see that there were 5 members of council who did score it high, so I have no issue moving forward with that, even though it wasn't something that I was necessarily in favor of.
Okay. Councillor Thompson?
Thank you, Mayor Don. If I may, just direct a question to Ms. Van Leeuwen. I just want to get clarity on something. We referred to it as an animal control service level increase, but yet when I read the description, it kind of says something contrary, that really, if we're going to maintain our level of service with the growing community, Ms. Van Leeuwen was looking for an increase in the animal control service agreement. And so I'm just reading from the description, but really it's just talking about that, we need to provide additional patrols to meet the needs of the growing community. Eliminating these extra activities would result in a reduction of the service to the community. So I guess, is this increase in funding to increase service levels, or is it really just to maintain our service levels that we currently have?
Ms. Van Leeuwen?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Last year was an anomaly in that bylaw services actually augmented the service because there was a pressure to do so. We can't continue to provide that augmented service and with bylaw services. So it would maintain the same service level as 2016, but it would be an increase from previous years.
Councillor?
And I appreciate that. And so, that's the way I understood. I never want to see a service level decrease unless there's a specific rationale for it. And so I'm still in favor of that particular increase. So,
Thank you. Councillor Gardner?
I'm in favor of doing it for 1 year. I know that there's disagreement, but I think that if you have the signage and you can, there are certain trails that are more abused than others. From what I understand from the walkers, I could be wrong, but I think if you can get the word out that we're ticketing and our signs are very clear, and they may have to be separate than the Parks and Rec signs, but very clear that there's a fine and that we have a policy and it's just not going to be tolerated. I'm willing to try this for a year, but I think that other policy might work in the future.
Any other speakers? Councillor Kim?
I rated this quite high, and I think from personal experience and from those whom who've communicated to council regarding their experiences with dogs not on a leash or other pet infractions, I think it's necessary. It's you can't get the right service level for one SPRCA or SPCA or CBS or whatever representative to look after the whole town. So I'd be in support of it for at least another year.
Thank you, Councillor. Anyone else? Then I will call the, so the motion then is that we would saw this off, if you will, at 3.1% total, which drops off the bottom two, correct? There was some changes, but that would still be the additional training in the evening facility supervisor, is that correct, Jason? Thank you. All right. So if everybody's comfortable with that, I'll call the vote. All in favor, please. Opposed? That's, I'm sorry, all, okay. Thank you. That's carried, Madam Clerk. That concludes our budget. I want to thank everyone for the work they did. I thank staff, thank council. I think it was a good process, and I very much appreciate this, and I think that staff have heard some of I don't want to say concerns, but just challenges going forward in terms of certainly third-party organizations and get a look at that very early in the process. So thank you very much, and have a good night, everyone.
Motion to adjourn.
Oh, I'm sorry, motion to adjourn. I was getting carried away. Councilors Maracus and Thompson, all in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Thank you.
Lisa, this isn't